Welcome. And we are so happy that you are back again with us today. And for those of you who are new to this session, we certainly welcome you. And we're going to start off with Stephanie. She has a few things to tell us. Stephanie Fries from the library. So Stephanie, go ahead.
Okay, everybody. You probably have been receiving lots of emails from me with attachments and great homework and everything. I just want to update you on a new addition to this week. If you look, I have two videos going on, one that says MCLS. It's a caption video. So if you would like captions in your breakout room, please privately message me and I'll make sure to put you in a breakout room with captions. Additionally, for the safe, comfortable environment for everyone, please make sure that when you are speaking to enunciate and speak clearly into your microphone and video so that people may be able to read your lips as necessary. The first session of this program is being recorded, and then we will work to have the recordings available within the week after all the sessions are done. We're going to start working on the next week to get it on our YouTube channel and to be shared with everybody. But that's it from me.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. And Brian.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment.
Something to say. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to take a moment and welcome everybody, for those that are back for week 2 and those that have joined us for the first time this week. This is something the Community Foundation, along with the library and the Gantt Foundation and our friends at United Way, are really excited about, to have this opportunity for us to get together and have these conversations and have these discussions in our own community. Just to sort of reflect and be open and honest with everybody. And we're very, very happy, as I mentioned, to partner with these groups to bring this to our community. And we look forward to having a conversation tonight, next week, and the week after. And it would be our hope that we'd be able to do something like this almost every 3 months, just to get together and talk about issues that affect not only Muskingum County, but the state of Ohio, the nation, and the world as a whole, and see and reflect how each of us can be a part of the opportunity that's in front of us. Anita, you played a wonderful video last week. I hope that people took the time to watch it. You got to the very end, and he asked for just one thing, and that's to care. And I think if we all just take a moment and care, we really can begin to come together and talk about our communities and what they want them to be, for them to be the best for everyone, to be able to set foot and step forward and be who they'd like to be. So again, we're excited. Thanks to the library, United Way, Gantt Foundation, Anita, the moderators, Amy, Tony, everybody, Danielle, the whole 9 yards, for jumping on board and getting involved with this. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you. And at this time, I would like for us to just all take a moment of silence for in recognizing Congressman John Lewis and his fight for justice. John Lewis, a U.S. politician and civil rights leader, has left us a powerful legacy and a strong mandate to get in the way. Find a way to cause necessary trouble, he says, good trouble. We know that his tiring efforts were to redeem the soul of the United States, to help make our world a better place. He often said, you must do it. You must have faith. It's your calling. It's your mission, your moral obligation. And as he often said, we all live in the same house. We are all family. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Black, white, Asian, Native American, man, woman, gay, lesbian, rich, poor, old, or young. It doesn't make a difference. We must live together as brothers and sisters. That is one thing that he emphasized so much throughout his years. He said, taking from his speech from years ago, he said, be bold, be courageous, stand up, speak out, find a way to create a beloved community, a beloved world, a world of peace, a world that will recognize the dignity of all humankind. Never become bitter, never hate, never be hostile, but to live in peace. We are one. We are disciples of the social justice movement. John Lewis, wow, what a man. Thank you for that, just reflecting on what he has done in our nation. Well, last week we had some great discussions, and most of the discussions centered around, many cases, of the lack of awareness of pertaining to the broader perspective of U.S. history as it relates to people of color, particularly African American people. Some were surprised as to how ingrained racism is in our society, in our history. Some knew about this, some knew about racial identity, but had not really thought about its impact. Some had not thought about what it means to be white. So we hope to continue some of those discussions and challenge you to think about how this time, this opportunity, this moment of opportunity right now to discuss, challenge ourselves, to reflect, and to think about how we can bring about change in our society. So with that in mind, let's take a few moments to hear from Steve Foreman. He is the curriculum director for the Zanesville City Schools. He probably has a number of other titles, and Steve, you're welcome to share what some of those other responsibilities are. And so we want to invite those of you that are listening, as Steve is talking, if you have questions, comments, put them in the chat, and we're going to try to respond to those questions. And of course, facilitators, you may certainly ask questions too. So, Mr. Foreman, Steve Foreman, tell us a little bit about yourself and what are the plans for the schools in the fall pertaining to COVID-19, and what are the schools doing to address diversity in our schools and structural racism. So we'll just let you talk a little bit, and we'll hopefully get some questions that you can respond to.
Okay, wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that it's not just listening to me, but I hope that I can glean some information from all of you, because the schools, we serve students, and so we're trying our best to come up with solutions for what is almost, an impossible situation at times. So we're trying to get through that. I feel like right now we have a real challenge on our plates. I do direct the curriculum for the district. I am the assistant superintendent. I also am a city councilman. I am your city councilman for Ward 5. And I've been in Zanesville City Schools for a number of years. I'm entering into my 30th year in education. I was in the classroom for like years, and I've been an administrator since I was 27 years old. I know the community. I'm from here. I know the families. I've worked in every part of town. I began my career with Zanesville City Schools, actually at Munson Elementary, where I was principal, and then I moved to Pleasant Grove, then to Westview, then to John McIntyre, and then I went to central office. There have been a great deal of challenges that have kind of crept in. One of the things is that the Department of Education, what they are wanting from us as a school district as far as planning is kind of a moving target. We know more than had decided that we were doing a blended learning model and filled out that application and sent it in. Then the next day after it was, or maybe it was the day before it was due or the day after it was due, they changed it and they said, they came up with something new called remote learning model, which we wanted to do. So then we had to do a retraction of the blended. And then, I mean, that's what it is. It's just that kind of craziness all the time. That being said, we are very fortunate because we have really leaned a lot on our administrative staff, who I think are it's just a wonderful group of people. And I think we have a wonderful group of teachers as well. They have really stepped up. What we did was we formed committees. So we had an elementary committee, we had a middle school, and we had a high school committee. And each of those committees developed a plan that was specific to the level of students that they serve, because obviously a high school pandemic plan is not going to look anything like an elementary, right? So that's kind of what we tried to do, was to allow it brought everyone to the table, and it brought all the not all the questions, but significant questions and challenges to us. And then kind of the job from there was to take those three plans, merge them together and form one big district plan. And I kind of ironically, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but to me it was ironic that while I sat at every one of those planning meetings, I didn't quite get the fact that they were all kind of doing the same thing until I stepped back and took those plans and put them together. And one of the really interesting things that we are doing is we're linking the level of instructional delivery. So whether it be all in the classroom, whether it be blended, kind of part-time in the classroom, part-time online, or all online, is completely all tied into the level that our county is on, level 1, 2, 3, the colors. So we will not be necessarily making that decision. We're putting that out there for our local health department, so that when we go on orange, here's what that means. And that's what our plan does. We are going to have our plan approved next week by the board. We will have it pushed out to all of you at that time. We do not wish to push it out prior to board approval, because when we give you the plan, it will be the plan. I know that Zanesville City, along with some other districts, we get a lot of challenging questions on social media about why don't we have a plan yet? Well, we could have been the first actually to give you a plan, but we want to give you the best plan. And so also, in addition to that, a lot of information has come out, and it has kind of changed some of the things that we were doing initially. So I feel like what we're going to present to the community next week is our very best work. Now, does it answer every one of your questions? I'm sorry, it does not. I know it will not. But that's why it then goes to the building base. So that will be a time to reach out to principals and find out, how are you doing this part of the plan? And they are very, very knowledgeable. They've been a part of all of this planning, so they'll be able to answer questions from there. We have different restrictions. We have different things. We have sometimes it's a 3 foot, sometimes it's a 6 foot distancing. That brings upon its own challenges. We do have students with special needs. They have a whole different, it's completely different for them. We have students that require assistance with an aide, a one-on-one. What does that look like? We have students that, for instance, that are in speech class who they need to see the teacher's mouth in order to, to have their speech session. So we have a lot of challenges, but what we have done is we've also purchased a lot of PPE. And so we purchased face masks for students. We purchased shields for students and teachers. We have sanitation, we have thermometers, we have tents outside of buildings where students can stand under to get their temperature taken before they enter a building. There's just a lot of moving parts. We are also very fortunate. We received funding through federal programs, what I control, federal programs, and also through the generosity of the John McIntyre Foundation to purchase Chromebooks. We are now in the process of purchasing Chromebook touches or iPads for the kindergarten and first graders because they may not be able to use a keyboard. So we are in the process of that. But the good news is we are one-to-one technology. So there will not be a student in Zanesville City Schools that does not have a device. And we have a procedure for giving out those devices and monitoring those devices. And, so I guess the big issue I see is you have kids that may not have a device. And that's a hurdle you can't get over. I mean, they have to have a device. Internet connectivity is a whole nother issue. We do have hotspots that will be available through the library system. We have hotspots that we are purchasing. I am working with the city of Zanesville, who actually is kind enough to make us a part of their CARES money. And that CARES money is going to purchase machines and facilitate places kind of like internet cafes where kids in different areas of town will be able to go if they don't have internet. So, I'm never going to be able to provide internet, say that we're providing internet to 100% of our students. That's never going to happen because no matter how I try, there could always be something. But what I can tell you is that 100% of our students will have access to technology. And to me, that's huge. I feel like that's something that I'm very proud of. I do see a question here that says, it's from Tom and Christine, says, with ODE strategic plan, where do you see the education related to race fitting in Zanesville plan? After watching the video last week about race, I realized I didn't learn any of those things in school. It would be great to see those things incorporated in schools now, and I agree. So let me switch gears for a second. The plan that went to ODE really didn't really, it's not necessarily for the purpose of curriculum as much as educational delivery, which there's a difference there. On the curriculum side, we recognize that there are frustrations that exist among staff wanting to, they're wanting to do the right thing, respond in the right way. They are concerned about, students and students' perceptions of themselves and where they fit in. I will tell you that I realize I'm the assistant superintendent of the district, so my recommendation probably means very little, but I also have a child that I put all the way through Zanesville City Schools. She and her friends have many, many times told me how happy they are because they feel like there's a place for everyone at Zanesville City Schools. And we have so much diversity within our building that I don't want to say nothing's ever a problem. That's not my point at all. But I just want to say that I feel like we're in a really good place. And I see a question about a diversity coordinator. I see a place for that in our school system. I would not be opposed to that. I think that we, however, have taken some steps, especially this year. We are kind of front loading our year by, we have hired a consultant, Amanda Conley. Amanda is with a group called Enhanced Collaboration and Consulting. She has consulted with schools like Lancaster, Canal Winchester, Bowling Green, Heath, Rossford schools, Licking Heights, Rootstown Local, Shelby City, Trotwood, Madison, Lexington, Amherst schools. And what she does is she provides kind of like that sometimes difficult talk of, kind of taking down the barriers that we all feel, or those things that we feel, because I don't feel like I have so much to learn, and every day I follow in social media and I see things on the news and I realize how much I need to know, and no matter how much I think I know, I know there's so much more, and that's kind of what Amanda does. That's kind of her shtick. She goes in there and she provides, kind of like the video. Brian mentioned the video, which I have to talk about too, because I love the end of it. That was my favorite part of that video, when he says, "All I'm asking you for is to care." I think that's one of the most, I think that's the most powerful thing in the whole video, actually, because you can't take away the things that have happened. You can't negate things of the past. But what you can do is you can ask people to not put up the barriers, not build the walls, and care. And that's what he's doing in that video. And I think that's the real message. And I love that part. I mean, he left it with that, and I was sold on that video. And so I think that when Amanda speaks, what she's going to do is she's going to be working with our administrative team and our teachers, and providing support for them as far as kind of moving forward, helping them to deal with some of the trepidation that some of our students may feel, some of the uneasiness that they feel, and trying to kind of just provide a counseling support system for everyone, so that what we're really trying to do is remove that, the uneasiness, because if our teachers go into school uneasy, our students are going to walk in the door uneasy. That's how that works. So we have to eliminate that for everyone. So that's kind of our goal. I see a question that says, let's see, how can we impact the curriculum to ensure the courses include race that has not been included in the typical curriculum in the past? And, at this time, I think Amanda Conley, I had invited her on this call. Amanda, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you think you could share a little bit? Because some folks are kind of asking questions about diversity training and how much diversity training do teachers get and so forth. And that's that's your deal. And that's why we've brought you on board in Zanesville City Schools. So would you mind kind of fielding that a little bit?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Conley, and I have a company, Enhanced Collaboration Consulting. And I have a passion for race, anti-racism, diversity, cultural curiosity is what I like to call it. My background is actually in ministry. I am an ordained minister and a hospital chaplain, which is where I have lots of experience with working with folks every day, patients, families, nurses, physicians, who all come from different backgrounds. And so a huge part of my training for chaplaincy has been around reaching people and meeting people where they are, and also coordinating education for staff and for others. A big piece of my background and my current ministry is staying up to date on my anti-racism training. So I have to do that for my own standing and my certification as a chaplain as well. And so when everything sort of began happening this year, where, we had these shootings, we had riots, we've had a really huge impact on our individual lives and our communal lives, especially around race. I really felt moved to put myself out there to connect with school districts, especially as pertains to diversity training, and how to have these challenging conversations and how to bolster the teachers to feel a little bit more confidence this year when addressing all of the trauma that is happening. Racial tensions create trauma for all of us. And also COVID-19 has created quite a trauma for all of us. And so I am working with Dr. Baker and Steve here, Mr. Foreman, and the rest of the administrative team to come up with a plan for Zanesville City Schools. Specifically, what we're starting with is addressing the immediate needs, addressing these immediate needs for teachers to be able to navigate conversations about race with each other and with the students in a meaningful and positive way. And so I'm providing tools for them, basically some very simple, here are really good ways to listen. Here are some really great ways to have conversations about race and build your stamina for having conversations about race. And especially as the school year starts, there's so much going on. So I'm trying to pare it down in the beginning to just give them those usable tools. And then we're going to do some assessing with Zanesville to go over the things that the teachers and the staff really feel like they need to get more in depth about. So we're going to address other issues like potentially looking more into implicit bias, anti-racism. What does that look like? It'll just depend on what comes out of our assessment after this initial education. I see some more good questions about students being included. Students, of course, can and will be included, but the thing about a topic this large is every school district has been really different. So for Zanesville, we're going to start with our leaders and teachers, and then we're hopefully going to branch out into getting students involved in different ways. And so there's more really good questions. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat as well. And so my hope is that, we can really take an approach that starts with education, with behaviors and action and resources to get everything started, a really good foundation. Working on diversity and race issues is a lifelong journey for all of us. It's a lifelong journey. Dealing with these things individually and in community is going to be a lifelong journey. And so my hope is to set up a sustainable plan with Zanesville that includes education, action, and connection. And so all of those things will go into this process. But for now, we're focusing on the education part, getting folks the tools they need to have good conversations and create safe space for students and for teachers. And also start getting some of that education out there that folks have said, we didn't know this about race, about what it means to be white, about what it means to be Black or a person of color in America. And so going back and doing some of that work is where we are now, and really taking time to get to know the district. That's going to be what I'm doing this year, is really getting to know the district and the teachers and the students to get a sense of where to go from here.
Amanda, hi, I'm sorry. I just want to ask you a question. My name is Dr. Danyelle Gregory. I'm the Director of Diversity, Access, and Inclusion at Muskingum University, and one of the facilitators for our series. And you mentioned doing an assessment to kind of gauge where the professionals feel like they need to dig deeper. Who all actually is going to be included on that assessment? Is it just professional staff, or are you assessing the community or the district to see what students, parents, families feel is needed to be addressed?
So my initial reaction is it's probably going to be a both and at some point. Yeah, so we're going to start with probably the staff and the professionals in the district, the teachers and the administration specifically, and then move to parents and folks in the community as well, is how I'm visioning that. Yeah.
Thank you. That was an interesting concept to me, so I just wanted to dig a little deeper on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And somebody had asked a question that I feel like I need to address, which is the role that the city of, Zanesville City Schools is utilizing the local health organizations. And the answer is a great deal. We've partnered with both Genesis and Muskingum Valley Health Center to help us, because there are things in our plan that require us to, for instance, have separate staging areas for students, for for care and students that exhibit COVID. So they are helping us with that. They are also, we're developing a plan to help for those kids that may be at a bus stop that have a temperature and can't get on the bus. So we are definitely utilizing them. They have reached out to us and offered services. We are in talks with them, and we have an active healthcare plan in which they have been a part. All of them have been a part since day one. So they are going to even provide nurses, and of course we have a nursing staff of our own. We have a nurse for every building. So we have those things happening. So the question is a good question, and it's something that should be happening, and it is happening.
I think there are some questions that are kind of back in the chat, so I'll bring them back if I don't think they've been addressed.
Okay.
Seen a lot of news lately about the 1619 project. Is Zanesville City or ODE discussing incorporating this in the high school curriculum?
That is my understanding. There's a great, so since I am in charge of curriculum, that is one of the items. I'm actually a part of a focus group that's on that right now. We have not had our first meeting yet. I believe it's Tuesday of next week, but yes, that is a topic. There are a lot of things on the table because we recognize that as a part of a reaction. First of all, what we're doing right now shouldn't be a reaction. It should have been proactive, not reactive. So it's sort of like trying to back it up and start again. So we are actively looking at ways that we can develop a part of the curriculum. And I definitely, from my years of experience, will tell you, I can see it coming down as being a mandated part of our curriculum very soon. Yes. And I'm glad of that. And I'm glad that I was asked to be a part of that.
And then Tony Mail asked me, which I forwarded. He asked if you're familiar with Mirror Image. He understands that a large majority of your students are African American. How many employees of colors does a school employ, and are they local?
So we reach out to everyone. We interview. We try to interview our teachers from within for positions when they want to move, because I feel like that's something that we should do if they're doing a good job for us. But we certainly have a number of teachers who represent a number of races. I think one of the things personally that I would like to see, and I've seen a little bit more of, but not enough, and it really has less to do with race and more to do with male and female. I would like to see more males at the elementary. I feel like, our boys struggle in areas sometimes of reading. And I think that they need to, speaking of that, I mean, I think that they need to see a successful male or a black male that is there and as the teacher in authority. The first time a lot of times kids get that is in middle school and then high school, which is not a bad thing, but I would like to see it, having been an elementary principal for 17 years. I feel like there's some value in that.
And then there's one from River. I'm just going to go ahead and read it verbatim.
Okay.
Any school type systems that have been implemented on a large school that provides evidence that the best plan for reopening is actually a good plan? They mention this because professional sports have had a large amount of trouble preventing the spread of COVID, such as a study in Germany where 12,000 students were being able to attend an event without spreading COVID. I have not heard of a larger industry than sports to have tried to reopen and theirs didn't go well. Are there any previous examples used to base the current plan off of, or are the children and staff going to essentially be the initial trial and error?
I think that that's a question that we're all asking. We're all trying to do the right thing. I know that one of the things that I do is I lean on experts, and the experts who are the pediatricians are saying to us that children need to be engaged. They need to be in with their peers. So I think that that's one of the reasons why we're providing choice. We are saying to families that you can choose the total online option. And to date, we have had over 550 students in Zanesville City Schools who have chosen an online only option. I recognize, I was a single father, I was a single parent to my daughter. I I had to make decisions that I didn't like. I didn't like to say goodbye to her every day and go to work. I mean, I know that there are tough decisions, and what they're facing right now is so much more than I ever did. And I can't imagine having to make those choices, and my heart hurts. But that being said, I think that there's a lot of comfort that can take place in choice. And so the answer to the question is no, because we haven't had COVID before. So that's why. But I think that giving parents the choice is a really big deal, because we're doing everything that we can do. We are distancing. We have set up our desk. We have done barriers. We just purchased, I don't even remember how much or how many, but basically one divider. So it's got two sides to it, a base, or I'm sorry, three sides to it and a base. And so every child will have those, and they can fold them up. And in the event that they have to go to a different classroom space, they will take that with them. We have gone to extremes. We have spared no expense in purchasing the PPE that we feel our students and our staff require or need or should have. So we're doing our best. I certainly, I am too much an advocate for all students to think that I would do anything that I blatantly think is not in their best interest. So I'm hoping that this works. I mean, that's the best that I can do.
So to continue the conversation, Susan also mentioned, since we're focusing a lot on COVID, how do you think that the school district is addressing the disparate impact of COVID on communities of color? It also seems like an ever-changing approach will disproportionately impact lower income families. Do you want to speak on that?
So one of the things that I do recognize as a bit of a disparity between those students who are economically disadvantaged and those who are not is the idea of devices and connectivity. I think that's always been the case. I think that there's always been a situation where we have some students that go home to more external supports than others. And I feel like, as I said earlier, I feel like one of the things that we've done going into this crisis is that we've been able to purchase devices for all students. So it will close that gap. Now, one of the things that we've done for many, many years, we've tried to close the gap, and the gap that we're trying to close mostly focuses around our minority students, and we're trying to economically disadvantaged students as well. And so we've always been trying to close that gap. One thing that I did was several years ago, I wrote for the CEP option, and you may be aware that Zanesville City Schools for the last, I believe, 5 years has not charged for breakfast or lunch for any student. That was a big move for our district as well, because you didn't have students that were identified as free. That really bothered me for a lot of my career, that a student would walk in the cafeteria and they're just little kids, and whether they recognize it or not really doesn't matter to me. It matters. I mean, the fact that it happens matters to me. And when a student walks in the cafeteria and says, "I'm free," that's horrible. And so we were able to do away with that. I kind of put this one-on-one device in that same category, where there's not going to be the discrepancy among students where someone's going to have that, at home, and someone else is going to say, we don't. Now, again, I go back to the connectivity issue because it bothers me to this moment. We have strides that need to be made with that. And so we have looked in, someone mentioned partnering with Verizon for hotspots, and we have done that. We have partnered, actually, I think what we did was we partnered with Sprint. So we have several hotspots that we're purchasing that way, and it's at a government rate, so it's much lower. Also during the summer, it's instead of paying a monthly fee, it's like a 1 cent a month fee kind of thing. So we're exploring those options as well. So hopefully, I think that those things are going to help to close that gap going into this plan.
Steve, I want to say something relative to the curriculum. I have, when I was at State University, I taught, one of the classes that I taught was on counseling with people from different cultural and ethnic backgrounds. And each year, as students come in and they go through that class, they talk about the frustration and they're very upset that they have come through all their years of school and they're so unaware. They don't know a lot about the different ethnic and cultural groups, their histories, relationships, and so forth. They're angry, they're upset, they're frustrated. How did I get this far and still not know all these things? So I think it's imperative that the curriculum be more inclusive, K through 12, relative to histories, the diversity that we have. A part of that is the historical trauma that many people feel. I recall talking to a Lakota young man, and he was telling about the Battle of Greasy Plains, more commonly known as the Battle of the Little Bighorn, where General Custer died. But as he was talking about that, he started crying. And the crying was because of his great-great-grandparents were involved in that battle. And here he is, over 100, about 75 some years later, and he's still feeling that historical trauma. I guess I'm saying all this is, the connection that the school has with mental health professionals in terms of dealing with some of the issues that come up in school, deep feelings that people may have that are very frustrating, scary at times. Also, the curriculum. I mean, a lot of the students are in their 30s and 40s, and they're talking about, wow, I didn't learn this. And so looking at the schools that failed them in that sense. So again, starting K through 12, that's imperative that we be more inclusive so that people aren't so surprised and shocked in terms of dealing with some of these issues. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, to relate to that.
Well,
Or Amanda.
Yeah, I'll let Amanda speak to it, but again, I just do want to restate that I am working, I have been asked to be a part of that group to kind of come up with looking at curriculum and so forth for that. And I agree with you 100%. I think that, this is indicative of a lot of things that we do in education where it seems like when something moves in, something moves out and something becomes less important. I think that this is something that we may have not there's no may about it. We haven't done our due diligence. In education anywhere in this area. And I think that that's something that we definitely need to look at. Before this ends, I'm afraid it's going to end at some point. I'm not going to be able to say this. So I'm just real quick going to say, if anybody has any questions or thoughts, I'm more interested in your thoughts or your suggestions, because I know I don't know it all, and I need you. I need the community. My best ideas have not come from this head. It's come from the people out there. So if there are things that you can share or ideas that you have, if you would email those to me, I would be forever grateful. My email address is kind of hideous, so just get ready. It's way too long, but it's Foreman. It's FOREMAN at zanesville.k12.oh.us. So again, that's Foreman, FOREMAN at zanesville.k12.oh.us. And Amanda, I'm going to let you kind of squeeze in there if you would.
Absolutely. gosh, issues of curriculum and how to integrate more diverse history, or just more authentic, I would say more authentic history, representative of what American history really is, and the nuances of race, and the fact that, you know, I think back to when I was in college and I took an economics class. It was political economy of race and gender. And it blew my mind because I was learning about how race isn't biologically real, but sociologically it has massive impact. And I was like, you know, 19 years old, learning about this, which, you know, my own race impacts my life, and I knew that. But I had never thought about the actual biological implication being not at all, and the sociological implication being quite great. But that is an aside. But when thinking about curriculum and engaging schools right now around how to really dig in and, for example, not just have Black History Month be a month about Black history, or not to have, you know, Women's Month be just a month of celebrating important women in our culture. Like, how do we break out of those molds when we're looking at our curriculum? There is a school district I'm working with right now who is looking at using their portrait of a graduate to integrate diversity each month into their schools. So what that will look like is, for example, the first month is about like being empathic leaders. And so the first month I suggested to them, you know, what would it look like to have intentionally pull out people of color and women and put them in front of a camera and have them talk about their leadership in the community, and do that in real time, you know, and do that for your students so they can see people who look like them or who look different from them, sharing their legacy, sharing their leadership. And so that's one of the things I was thinking is, how do we incorporate current leaders, current people who have written really amazing books that maybe you have for your middle schoolers accessible in your media library. What about bringing those people in to talk about those books and incorporate that into what you're already doing? But we're just scratching the surface with curriculum and where to start. So right now we really are doing our research. We're doing our homework about different things that might work. And like Steve said, we're taking feedback from people about just what are some good ways that people have done this before? What are other school districts doing? What are colleges suggesting? There are some really great things in the comments about collaboration between higher education and K-12. And I really love that. And just like my company name being Enhanced Collaboration, there's so much out there that there's so much information. There's so many leaders. There are so many educators who have just really great experience in how to really lift up minority students and do that in different ways. And so we are really still researching, connecting, and doing homework to really get underneath the curriculum piece. And there are lots of school districts who are asking that question right now, who are struggling. This is hard. And there is that, like Steve said, there is push and pull about, well, if we add something to the curriculum, does something else need to go? And I'm one for being creative, and how can we really creatively address this? Maybe we don't have to let something go. Maybe there's a way to provide a wider picture for the students just by mixing things up a little bit. So.
Thank you, Amanda and Steve. And I know we've gone past the 7 o'clock hour. We want to be able to go into our groups. We still have a lot of number of questions that are coming in. This is such an important topic. Continue to submit questions, and we will try to respond to some of those questions in the group. Those that still need questions need to be forwarded to, we can't respond to. I'll forward those to Amanda and to Steve, and we'll try to get the responses back to you. So we are going to go into our breakout sessions and continue with discussions, continue to ask questions, and we're copying down all of these questions that are coming in. And again, Steve and Amanda, thank you so much.
I just want to tell everyone thank you for giving me your time this evening, and thank you to this group for inviting me.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting me contribute. I was jumping in to speak about these conversations. I got excited. So thank you also for letting me jump in today.
You were wonderful, Amanda. Thanks for doing that at the last minute. Amanda did this at the last minute, so thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so
I am open.
Stephanie, I think we're ready to go on to our groups and
Okay.
discuss this more. Okay, any comments from the groups? We've had a lively discussion, and I can tell you one thing is these discussions really need to continue on. And I, with Steve and Amanda, for having, leading the way in the city schools, we definitely want to reach out to them and continue these discussions. One of the things I asked is, after a lot of the issues had been talked about, is what is the crux of the issue? And so we had people, really taking a look at that and thinking about what is the crux of the issue that we're facing. So let's hear from some of the other groups.
Well, there was a question posed in my group that I really wanted to bring up to the whole group regarding, we discussed a little bit before we broke out about the curriculum, and it was brought up that we know that changing in curriculum, a lot of times the political climate and those kinds of things can be touchy. And so they wanted to know regarding the modification of curriculum, particularly like incorporating the 1619 project, how community members and Steve feel that this will play out in our local area in Zanesville, and what type of pushback there might be at all levels with modifying the curriculum to be more inclusive.
I think that we're going to have less of a, I don't see a big pushback necessarily from our area as much as I think that there's always that, I brought up before, that issue is always brought up of, you bring something in, you put something out. I mean, I always joke around that, years ago they decided in first grade no more dinosaurs, and in second grade clouds weren't important. I don't know, someone at ODE came up with that. I don't understand that, but that's kind of the way it goes, because they brought something in, so clouds had to go, and brought something in, and dinosaurs were. I mean, it's just that I'm purposely being facetious there, but it's kind of funny that I think to someone's point, and I don't know who said this, so I apologize, but somebody said that I think that what we do is we incorporate. So how can we incorporate this with reading and writing? And, you bring it in as just another piece within that. So, that's kind of what I talk to teachers about anyway with literacy. Literacy is everything. I can make any lesson a literacy lesson. It's just a matter of being creative. And so I think that I would like to see more sharing of ideas, and those really have to be, you're correct though, Danielle, it has to be at the state level, because that's where those changes happen. You're 100% correct. And so, I think that more groups like this, and I think more parents need to voice their opinion on that. I think that's how that happens.
I can talk about my group. I started off just by asking people, when did you have your first Black teacher? And some had it as, low as the 5th grade, but others like me and many others, not till college, graduate school, etc. And we talked about the importance of, finding a community and, a Black teacher being a role model, showing that, and showing that this is accessible to you, that you can do this, reaching out to minority students and helping them, and, showing them there's a path, basically. And also, that, teachers bring to the table their culture too. And that when we, just summarizing things, when we lack that diversity in a school system, our children are really worse for it because they don't get that exposure. They come out in a bubble. And we talked about success rates at, say, historically Black colleges and universities comparatively, and what we're doing, leaving people behind. So I guess, and we talked about quite a few other things too, very interesting discussion, but I wonder what, for Steve, what are we doing to actively attract more diverse teachers and administrators for our school systems?
Well, so I don't want to use this as I don't want to use the COVID-19 excuse, as I call it. But prior to this, what I was doing was I was actively recruiting, and I had set up many colleges and many just organizations, OAESA, OSHA, everyone, BASA, everybody has recruiting events. And I actually had purchased quite a shiny, attention-getting display that I was taking around, and I was going to use that to try to talk to people about coming to Zanesville. I've only used it twice because then COVID hit and I haven't been able to, they've canceled all of those. But that's one of the things that I really have tried to do is I want to reach out, and I think that a portion of that comes from exploring people that are even outside of our area, that what do we have to offer? What is a Zanesville student? And that's sort of what I'm was trying to do. We have looked at retention plans, like offering teachers, incentives for staying with Zanesville, especially in some of our more economically challenged schools, because I think that's a barrier. It's harder. It's just harder there. And I think that offering teachers who are really good teachers extra to take on that challenge or put in the extra time. One of the things that we do have is we have a wonderful after school program that I'm very happy with. We've done it now for 3 years. I write a grant for that. I have it at 3 of our buildings right now. It just happens to be 3 of our elementaries. It's $200,000 a building. And the data that they collect from that is based solely on economically disadvantaged children, and looking at and minority students and special ed students, and trying to close the gaps that we see in their learning. And I have to report that information because it's an external evaluation that I have. It's not like I hire a friend or I go in and evaluate my own program. I have to have a third party evaluator who does a report that's based on the numbers and what successes we're seeing or failures. We report failures as well. But we have a wonderful program that serves, and it serves kind of that whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs as far as providing a dinner to students. And we call parents in, and we teach them about, we show them what we're doing to teach their children reading. And I think that that's a really powerful piece too, so that they know what their children are experiencing because we're showing them. And we have a really good attendance of parents for that. we even provide gas cards to offset the cost of transportation. And so, those are kind of the things. I will say that going back to, a lot of times the 1619 project comes up, and, I just think that there's so much, who was the project creator for, Hannah Jones? Wasn't that the name? Nicole Hannah Jones, I think, is the one who won the Nobel Prize in 2020. And I think that, one of the things is there's a lot of people behind that. I'm not, to someone's point in the chat, I'm not saying that that there won't be pushback, but what I'm saying is I think that more and more people recognize the need for exploration. And that's all I'm saying. So I think that, again, I don't know if I said it in this group, but I said it in our breakout group. I really think it's important for parents and community leaders, the people that are on this right now, to really reach out to the state and let them know that, this is something that really we're lacking. We're lacking in schools. We're lacking in curriculum, and what can be done. I think sharing your ideas and your thoughts, and most of all, really your experiences, I think that's really powerful. They will listen. They will listen. I mean, it doesn't always happen right away, and it comes with a lot of work, but I mean, they will listen. And if enough people say it, they will listen.
Anyone from my group wants to, chime in about anything else we discussed or ask a question related to it, please do.
I just want to ask, and I guess this is probably a question for Anita. Afterwards, and will they be able to, will everyone be able to hear the breakout sessions? Anita? I can't hear.
You're muted, Anita.
Anita, you're muted.
Still.
I'll talk for anyone that's muted.
Whole group sessions are recorded where we can hear those. The breakout are not recorded, but we gather the information from what has been said. And we have the chat questions to review. I don't know if that's what you're asking about.
Something in particular, and I think everybody in our group, I happen to be in Amy White's group, and I would think everybody in our group would agree with me to say that Keisha did a beautiful job of explaining her feelings of being a high school student and some of the needs.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that you will get a hold of Keisha, Steve Foreman, because she gave our group a wonderful background of Zanesville City Schools as being a high school graduate of color and the need to be able to go into other schools. And with that, kind of ironically, this white girl had to look up what HBC meant because, again, didn't know when everyone kept saying HBC colleges, HBC, I had to go look that up, which just shows, what many of us don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
And Cindy, say what it is, since maybe there's other people who don't know.
HBC,
so go ahead.
Would you raise your hand if you don't know what HBC means? Thank you. Thank you. I just was beating myself up for this, but HBC is historically Black colleges. And they just kept saying it, and I had to Google it because I didn't have the faintest idea what it meant. So this is such a wonderful learning experience, and I do appreciate. But Steve, you need to get with Keisha. She has a wealth of knowledge.
So Keisha, one of the things that I'll say to you is that you had asked about the group that was formed there, the Voices of Youth. It is my understanding that will continue. We have hired an interim principal for the high school this year, which is Chad Grandstaff. I would encourage you to reach out to him, and I will give him a heads up as well to be a part of that. That would be absolutely wonderful if you would do that. I think that we need help from the community, and that's something that you could provide, kind of community resource. And having been a recent grad, you carry with you kind of the proof. And so your voice is very important. So that's what I think about that. I just want to echo also that I really think that this has been a wonderful event. I'm glad that I was able to attend the whole time, because I think some of the things that have been shared tonight and the things that I've learned and the questions that have been asked have been very, they're going to be very helpful going forward.
And also, thank you again, Steve, and thank you so much, Keisha. Keisha and I have talked a lot about the different issues. The 1619 project, if you're not aware of that and what it's all about, Google 1619 project and find out what that is about. For those of you who do not know, I'm looking at my time here. We don't have a whole lot of time left. These discussions have to continue. I mean, there's so much, and then the groups like Steve and Amanda, and involving Keisha and others, I think are so important to addressing the issues and making progress here.
Anita, you want us to go and finish the groups, what we talked about?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. We've got
our
about 3 minutes.
Yeah, our group talked about many things. Starting with curriculum. It was that I explained what mirror image was and how it worked in the workplace and in higher education or in public education, as well as other areas. And we explained that, but we also talked about genealogy as well as the richness of local diversity. I know, Steve, you mentioned recruiting from outside, but remember, we have a rich diversity locally as well. Many people of color and many people from various backgrounds that are local that have those credentials. They're just waiting for somebody to reach out to them. So I wanted to put that out there. But yeah, we talked about many things. And one question was brought up: how are you retaining those valuable teachers or administrators, not just of color, but that are really empathetic and can reach out to those students that may have troubled backgrounds or diverse backgrounds?
Well, both within the city of Zanesville, because I serve as a council person, and also in the city schools, retention is kind of it's a very hard thing to measure sometimes, because you want to, so I don't always have positions open that a person is ready to move or that they want to change. I want to respect, I want to do the best thing for their career if they've done a good job for us. So there are a number of times when it's killed me to have to write that letter of recommendation or make that phone call and say goodbye to them. But we make every effort. The people who have moved up through the ranks in our organization, or who, we try to do a lot of things with recognition. We have quarterly recognitions. We have building recognitions by week. We try to applaud. I think the number one thing that anybody wants I'll just speak for myself. I mean, every once in a while, and I don't need it a lot, but every once in a while, a nice pat on the back is nice. Or how about just a recognition of something that you've done that maybe went the extra mile or that helped somebody. And that's what we try to do. We try to support those things, because I think that, I think that that's ultimately what keeps good people. I think that they just want to be recognized for the good work that they do. And they want to know that someone appreciates what the efforts that they've made. And that someone, how about just the fact that someone's paying attention? And that's what we try to do. I try to do that as much as I can. My principals are excellent at it, I will tell you. And they even go so far as they'll email me or call me or text me and tell me something going on right now. And I love when they do that. I tell them all the time, because that's kind of they're my eyes. I can't be everywhere, but I can't see all the good things. But if you tell me about them, that's very helpful. So I guess, Tony, I would say that's anywhere you are, that's one of the biggest pieces to it. We try to recognize people for the work they do. And when they do that exceptional work, we really make every attempt to not just say a good pat them on the back, but also share their accomplishments with others within our district. We have a newsletter that we do every single week called The Communicator, and we do shout outs and that kind of thing. I mean, people need that, and especially going into this kind of time in our lives, I think that that's more important than it's ever been.
All right, thank you, Steve. Is there anyone from, or is Amanda still on? Amanda, did you want to say anything in our group?
Amanda Conley?
Yes.
No, she had to leave.
Okay, how about you, Steve? Any takeaways from our group?
You know, this is just so valuable to me, to be able to hear ideas and to have people, you know, if you have ideas and you want to share them, or you want to share an experience, again, if you'll reach out to me and do that, I value that. I need that, because at this time, you know, we're kind of facing a time in society that we've never faced before, and that this is kind of new ground, and it's very helpful.
All right. Our time is up. We're past time, but this is good. You know, a lot of really good discussion, a lot of concern. So this will continue. Next week, we will be hearing from the County Sheriff's Department, and also the City Chief of Police, who will be here, and they will have some people to be in the various groups next week. So looking forward to that. And meanwhile, as we talked this evening, there were a number of resources that were spoken about, and I hope you'll take time during the week to go through the resources that have been passed out to you, and try some of those things. There is one called the 4-corner exercise, where you write something down in each of the 4 corners. That's some homework for you, right? What it says in each of the 4 corners, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that next week. So you've got some homework to do. If you have not filled out the assessment, do that also. Okay, I think we're about 3 or 4 minutes beyond our time. So thank you very much for participating. Keep spreading the word out. Tell others to join us next week.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.